Well, hello and welcome to Kase Filters UK's fortnightly Sunday session. My name's Ruth Taylor. I'm hosting these sessions on behalf of Kase Filters, and I'm here tonight with my guest photographer, Mike Prince, who I'll introduce you to in just a few moments' time. Welcome if you're coming in on the chat. I'm seeing somebody there already, hoping he's on the right stream. We hope you are too, Andy. I'm not sure what you're here for, but if you're here for this, you're in the right place. And it's going to be a really good half hour. So if you haven't been here before, let me just tell you how it works. Basically, we're going to be here for half an hour chatting away with Mike. And if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, please do use the live chat box that you'll see there on YouTube. We'll be keeping an eyeball or two on that. It does have a few seconds delay just before it comes through to this end, so we will get to them. So you can use that over the next half hour. And just finally, if you want to watch this again, or if you want to share or catch up, anything like that, then again, right here on the Kase Filters UK YouTube channel, it will be available rather, hopefully, just after we finish tonight, fingers crossed, so you can do whatever you want to do with that. So that's what's coming up over the next half hour. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's very nice to have you. I've got piles of people pouring into the chat already, which is really nice. Mike, just first of all, you're based down in the landscape, down in the oh my goodness, I've gone blank. The Lakes, the Lakes district. Landscape photographer, lover of nature, lover of solitude, as you were saying earlier before. I mean, we would talk quite often about, obviously, the past year. Lots of people run workshops and stuff like that. Some people have obviously had to change the way they work. Other people have struggled a wee bit with the quietness. Others not so much. Others quite enjoying, as you were saying earlier, the social distancing, coming into your own almost. How's the last year been for you? Have you had to change the way maybe that you work?
I mean, we had to stop all of the workshops, and so there was just a complete full stop there. Just put something on the website and closed it all down. All the bookings we had, we cancelled and refunded immediately, and thought we'll just stop dead here. And I think I actually did that a little bit early because the writing was on the wall. But right the way through, there's been all the sort of challenges of there. But as I was saying earlier, the key thing for me is we've just been so aware of how lucky we've been. We've been, as a family, we've been lucky. Where we live has been a fortunate place. And for someone like me, social distancing, as I was saying, I've been doing it for years. So it comes pretty easy. So that's a slightly glib line, but over the overwhelming part is, we were just sitting there thinking, we're lucky. We'll do everything we can to keep that way and try not to mess it up for anybody else. So yeah, it's been an interesting year, but it's for everything that's stopped, something else has started, and so I now know our local area better than I ever did. I know our local fell better than I found a favourite tree on the fell that I'd never seen before. So there's all sorts of positives there. That, brimming around. So ups and downs, but absolutely just glad to be looking through it and maybe at the other end.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are saying the same. They know their local patch more than ever, I think, over the past year. So you're right, ups and downs. Like, for people that maybe don't know you, you obviously haven't been a full-time photographer your entire life. I know you worked in education for many years. Why don't you just let people know just a little bit about yourself and how you actually did get into photography?
Oh, right, really long story.
Settle down.
Sit back and be comfortable. My dad was a really keen amateur photographer. There was always a camera in the house. So from being a very small child, I knew about cameras, and I knew that lenses came off, and this was exciting, and different lenses could go on. He had his own darkroom set up, so I knew what an enlarger was, before I knew almost what anything else was. And I never remember anybody teaching me to print at that stage, but I kind of knew how to do it. So it was always there. But it ebbed and flowed. It was kind of it sat in the background, and then you whiz forward to the end of the 70s, early 80s, and I was trying to make a go in London of being a stage photographer, stage, theatre, contemporary dance, that sort of thing. Absolutely loving it. I'm penniless. And kind of the more I got into it, the more I realized the bits that I enjoyed doing were not the bits that were paying. But it was fun because in those days, if you could go into a dark theater and make pictures, people thought you were a magician. Why has he not got a flash gun? How do you do that? And there was a real kind of cachet about that, and I loved it. But eventually I took a part-time job because it wasn't paying, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do with it. That part-time job turned into a job working in the photographic trade, hiring and selling and doing second-hand kit and all that sort of stuff. And the photography gradually got overtaken because I discovered climbing, and I then, for 10 years, I took a camera with me, but I just wanted to go climbing. I wanted to go ice climbing, winter mountaineering, you name it. I just wanted to get out in the hills and enjoy myself. And the photography sort of gradually dipped down in that time. And I made a decision. I wanted to live in the lakes. Trained as a teacher, trained in outdoor and environmental education. Moved up to the lakes, joined a mountain rescue team. Spent a wonderful time climbing, rescuing people, bringing up a small family, and the photography just disappeared, completely. And then in the sort of second half of my career as a teacher, I was a head teacher at primary school, and despite the fact it was a really happy school and we were really successful, the levels of stress just went up and up and up and up. And I started to head back out with a camera and just take myself away somewhere in a quiet, muddy field, somewhere in the rain. And that was my antidote. And gradually that built. And the time came when I decided, I have to get out of this job. It's not making me happy. When you love teaching, it's the best job in the world. If you're hating it, it's the worst job in the world.
You have to love it, yeah.
Yeah, and I just gradually thought, well, I think I'll just, I'll stop doing that and I'll just sort of mooch around quietly on my own, taking pictures. And that's what I did. And then I had no real plan, but then gradually people started asking if they could buy prints and asking if I did workshops, and all of a sudden, it became easier to put something on the website, advertising it rather than answering the questions, and it just kind of just went from there. Yeah. So, that's 6 years or something. That's all I've done. So yeah, it's a long and circuitous route, but I absolutely, completely happy doing it now.
Yeah, everyone's got a different story. It's always fascinating to me. Some people start off, pretty much when they're 18 and they kind of go from there. Most people generally, they do try something else first. And like your story, the stress very often is what, and photography being the relief to that. And actually that balance kind of just changing over time and then going, taking the plunge. Mike, do you remember your first camera?
My first, I used to use my dad's little Pentax S1A, which is a delight of it, sort of the forerunner of the Spotmatics and those sorts of things. And I used that, although I didn't own it. And then I went through various stages, and the first proper camera I had that I thought, this is my camera, and I'm serious now, was an Olympus OM1, and I had that for probably a year, maybe two, and then I discovered Nikons, and there were all sorts of reasons that made me shift over, but they were easier to work with in dark theaters. The Nikon F2 at the time had a little, what they call a little light that shone in the top and lit the needle up and stuff, and it could just work, and it was easier, and the lenses were more readily available. So, and then it's been Nikon ever since.
Mirrorless DSLR?
Pardon?
Mirrorless or DSLR?
Now mirrorless Z7. I went through D800s, 810s, 850, all that sort of stuff, and I ordered a Z7 on launch. I thought this is the future. I said to somebody the other day, it asked the question on Facebook, what should I buy? And I thought, you have to, with tech, you have to invest in the future. You can't look back. And in 5 years time, well, in less than 5 years time, you won't be able to buy a DSLR anyway. So I love it.
It's moving very quickly. I mean, each to their own. Everyone likes it a wee bit different. But I know it's just fascinating. There's a lot of strong opinions, shall we say, on both sides. Mike, looking at your kind of online galleries, your images, you've got a wide variety of genres that you shoot. You've got a lot of obviously kind of bigger images, shall we say, the kind of sweeping images. You've got a lot of kind of moody, woodlandy ones. You've got a lot of very intimate images as well. I know you've been doing a lot of slate kind of studies.
Oh yes, yeah.
In quarries just now.
I'm having a whale of a time with the slate.
You're loving it. I know. I mean, do you have a preference, intimate or kind of bigger landscapes, or does it just whatever draws your eye?
It really is. It's what hits me there. You know, there are people who are really clever at planning photographs out, and they'll plan with an app, and they'll work the sun, and they'll work all this sort of stuff, and I can't do that. I plan, but I plan really carefully about where I feel like going, and so, you know, I know where I'll be tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and I know probably where I'll be for, you know, sometime later in the morning. I've absolutely no idea what picture I'll take, or if I'll take a picture. Just not a clue. So it's just turn up. I think for me it's that, because I mean I'm taking pictures for me, of course, you know, and it's to do with, you find yourself somewhere and you respond to it, and that's my picture, is how I respond. And kind of, you know, I don't know how I'm going to feel in 24 hours, so I can't plan how that'll be. So it's turn up and look around, and you know, sometimes, you know, I know where I'm going to get out of the car tomorrow, but that's the limit. You know, and I should just wander about and see what happens.
I like that. I like that everyone's different. Everyone shoots for a different reason, you know. And you're right. Some people love the planning. They love the apps and the sunrise by the minute and all that. And other people, they just like being out. They would like to shoot for themselves. And I love that there's not one rule for everybody to be a landscape photographer. You do what works for you. Absolutely.
And I was looking through some slides for a camera club talk, and about third slide in, I've got a slide that says, "I am a photography anarchist," and, and you know, it gets a laugh on the night. But you know, that's the thing. You know, it's such a beautifully free thing. You know, everybody can do the thing they want to do and the way they do it. And you know, I really rail against, you know, when you see clickbait titles, you know, these are the things you must do if you want to make your landscape photograph. So, you know, these are the 3 tips you must follow. You must press this button. And I think, you know, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but you know, it's not for me.
No, that's what they want, though. It's clickbait, isn't it? They know it's going to provoke a strong opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about being a photography anarchist, something interesting that you said, which is quite unusual for landscape photographers, is that you don't shoot sunsets, or you don't enjoy or go out planning to shoot sunsets. I mean, is there a reason for that, or what are your favorite things to shoot?
It's really weird, but I'll sit and watch a sunset, and the bag will be on the floor somewhere, and it'll be closed, and I'll enjoy and really appreciate that moment. But as an image, it doesn't excite me. You know, I'm not gonna take a picture of a wonderful sunset and dash home to look at it on the screen. You know, it's just not going to happen. I think, you know, in terms of conditions, there's a flavor for some people. They want to get that moment. They want to get that, you know, perfect combination of the light and the time of day and the hill and all that sort of stuff. And I'm kind of exactly 360 degrees opposite from that. You know, I think the places I go are utterly beautiful, but they're utterly beautiful every single day of the year.
Yeah.
You know, they're 365 days beautiful. And if you have to wait for a special moment till they've got their best frock on, that's not where I want to be. You know, I want to be there on the day when it's a bit drizzly and it's a bit wet and it's a bit dour, but I'm still thinking that's still a really beautiful
stunning
place.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that gets me going. And you know, I was just looking at a picture tonight on Facebook from a lovely lady called Nancy, who just put a picture up of the rain through her car windscreen. And I thought, you know, it's just gorgeous because we've all sat in the car with the rain hammering down like that, and it was just beautiful. So no, I really don't have a favorite condition. It's kind of hard work if it's really wet and really windy and the wind's blowing right at you, and you know, that sort of thing. But no, I think it for me it does the landscape a bit of a disservice if you're just waiting for that special moment. So no, I mean, to be honest, if I'm somewhere and the conditions are perfect, I go to pieces slightly, and I just end up looking at it. Yeah, I just end up looking at it and thinking, my God, this is nice, and slightly forget to take pictures.
Yeah, I admire that, because there's a lot of people. It's very difficult to be, especially a sunrise or a sunset, as a photographer, and not to be, because that is what thrills a lot of people, and grabbing for your kit. But the fact that you can actually sit and enjoy it and leave the camera behind. Again, it's the different. Everyone's different. Everyone has different things that thrill them and makes them want to pick up that camera and do different things. Even like, say, the rain on a car window. I quite enjoy that kind of thing. I sit in a car and just, you know, try and take a picture of the raindrops. Each to their own. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And it's the, you know, the key bit, I think, you know, is that I'm taking these pictures for me. You know, I'm not trying to take something which I think will get a lot of likes on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. You know, I bung them up there because I think it's fun, and I think it's fun to share, and I like seeing what other people have been doing during the day. But you know, it's my picture for me. If you know, I like it, great. Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't have a clue how to judge whether people are going to like it or not. You know, it's a standing joke in the house. You know. Yeah, I'll say to my wife, you know, just take the picture. I think it's fantastic, and she'll just look at me and she'll say, yeah, nobody else is going to like it, are they? No, but I really do.
Love the encouragement.
Up it goes, you know.
Oh, I love it. No, you're shooting for yourself. That's an amazing way to be able to do it. No, I love that. I mean, somewhere else that you love, you've got its own section on your gallery is Venice, and there's a lot of images, and there are lots of kind of ICM stuff like that. I mean, artistically, is that something you enjoy doing, or I mean, do you have?
It's a bit I really can't understand, because it doesn't fit with anything I think. You know, I choose not to travel a lot. I don't like the idea of sort of hopping around the world, sort of picking up pictures all over the place, and I don't like cities. You know, I don't like crowds. I don't like heavily commercialized places. But you know, you walk out of a door in that place, and you know, it's just a love affair. You know, and you can't always justify or explain or unpick that. But it's the most beautiful thing that mankind has created, I think. So just being there is wonderful. And I kind of, you know, I like taking pictures. I think my attitude to it has changed, because there's been so much done there, and so much of it so similar. And that's made me a little bit jaded in terms of photography there. But I could live there. It's the only city in the world I could live in.
I mean, it's like no other city in the world. I was there a couple of years ago, and like you're saying, people for hundreds of years have gone and painted it and taken pictures of it. What I wanted to do when I was on the boat was take pictures of the local Chinese restaurant and stuff like that. And I thought this could be an interesting project. Venice, but the kind of, you know, the backside of it that you maybe don't see so often. I mean, you do like a ICM, intentional camera movement kind of stuff. From an artistic point of view, do you have any inspirations, other photographers, other artists, any maybe even musicians, when it comes to the way you look at things?
I think, I mean, you know, the first bit is that old thing about, you know, your style is every book you've ever read, every picture book you saw as a child, every film you've ever seen, every time you've been in love, every time you've been your heartbroken. You know, it's all of that. That's your style. You know, that's where that comes. So that's the thing that sort of drives it. There are painters I love. I mean, a huge number of landscape photographers like Turner. You know, he sort of speaks to us. You know, people like Constable. You know, I love the way he paints skies, and it's very hard to look through a camera on a day with the right sort of sky when you're not thinking that's he would have loved that. That's really him. Someone like Ruskin, or while not a painter, he got it as far as the environment goes, and he understood where we were with things. And I think his sort of attitude, and he exhorted painters to be true to nature. And I think if I look at the photographers that I admire and the people whose work I like, people like Joe Cornish and Paul Wakefield, Bill Neal, Colin Bell, does a lot in the lakes, and they're all people who are true to nature. There's no veil there. It's that was the scene that was before them, and as nearly precisely recorded as they can do it. So yeah, those are the people that I really, whose work I really admire.
I mean, talking about nature, talking about not liking jetting off, I know you're a big advocate of is it the Nature First Alliance? You've got a section on there. Do you want to just tell us for a minute what that's all about and why you feel so strongly about it?
I think it grew out of many strands, but if you go back to some of the old rules, if you like, about take nothing but photographs and leave nothing but footprints. Every single one of us who takes a picture of a place in the natural world and then shares that picture encourages somebody else to go there. And every one of us who does that bears a certain responsibility for the huge numbers of people who tread those paths now. And I think as we're not exactly guardians of it, but as people who are heavily invested in the world, I think we have a job to do. And so the Nature First Alliance is really to do with being mindful and being thoughtful about our effect on the world around us. And it's everything from at one end of the scale. I've seen photographers out in the wilds break a branch off because it's in their way. That just fills me with horror. So we would advocate not creating damage. They advocate not being circumspect with sharing locations. So we don't want to encourage a lot of people into small spaces, and that's what we tend to do. Whenever possible, look at somewhere like the lakes. The lakes is really busy. I mean, it's like Skye will be in the busy months of the year, but most people go to a small number of places, and if you can spread those out a bit, then you're going to be making some sort of an impact. So there are various other little bits and pieces into it about trying to understand the places you go and trying to be aware of how you might be damaging them. But it's trying to lower our impact. And for me, that's there's really no point making pretty pictures if the end result is that those places then become damaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just better not doing it.
Yeah. I know you've got a section on your website, so if anyone's interested, we can put that link on at the end. I know most outdoor photographers feel exactly the same way. They're big advocates of not trampling through the bluebells and all the rest of it. But I like the fact that there's an actual, there's bullet points there, there's things that you're actually pretty much putting your name to, saying I'm not going to do this, and I like that. So Nature First Alliance, yeah.
I think you have to nail your colours to the mast, and you have to say this is something that's more important than my desire to take pictures or the pleasure I get from taking pictures. I think there is a sense that as a photographer, you can consume the environment, you can use the natural environment to further your own ends. And our natural environment is not a consumable resource; it's a finite resource, and it's running out. For me, that's big stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just being a good steward, I think, of all that. I love that. You mentioned some of the artists you were talking about there, some of the photographers taking pictures just pretty much exactly as they saw them. When it comes to post-processing, I know most of yours are very subtly done, I would say, again, like many landscape photographers. I assume. Do you have a particular approach? Is it just that?
It's a funny one. I've got for me, it's processing, not post-processing. I've never been comfortable with the term post, because it kind of separates it. And for those of us who grew up in a dark room, the processing is part of making the picture. You click the button, you process it, and so it's as one. And when I'm looking through a viewfinder, I have at times maybe a romantic view through that viewfinder, but I have a view that's how that scene looked to me, and then it's get home. And there's a nice saying, which is you do as little as possible and as much as necessary, and I've always liked that turn of phrase. But for me, it's trying to get away with as little as possible, and spend as little time on it. I'm usually dead excited about the next picture that's further down the screen somewhere. So I'm not I'll rush home to process, because I want to see stuff that day, and I'm terrible, because I should leave it 2 weeks and I should let it stew and I should reflect on it, and it's get home, process, bang, I've shared it, and because I'm already thinking about where I'm going tomorrow.
Yeah. So again, everyone's different. Some people do that. Some people leave it a month and they swear by that, and they go back. Other people, they go home, it's 15 seconds and it's done. And no right and wrong, I don't think.
No, and I'm sure it would be better to leave it. And I do come back to things, and think, oh, what was I thinking? but I use social media as a sketchbook. It's not I don't use it as a finished gallery of these are my best pictures only. I put the thing up that I'm worked on that day or thinking about at that moment. And so it is warts and all. And I do occasionally have to go back and remove things, because they're just awful. And, I was dead excited at the time, but
no, I like that. It inspires people to know that you can actually go back to something and get a different shot. You could be an interesting series, actually, Mike. Here's the one I processed 3 minutes later. Here's the one I waited 3 months to do, and here's the difference. Which one do you like better?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. But one of the things I notice when you compress it and you put it onto Facebook, it sometimes shows you something about an image that you didn't notice first, and it usually tells you if you've overcooked it in some way. And so again, I'll if I see that, then I'll whip it down. When you're looking at something on a great big screen in front of you, then it looks one way, but when it's reduced to a JPEG that big, you might see that heavy vignette or something, or that overdone sky or something, and you think, no, that's not me. So if it looks subtle, that'll do for me.
No, it does from my point of view. Mike, memorable moments when it comes to photography, good or bad? Do you have any particular ones that stick in your mind?
Do you know, it's funny, because I'm most excited about what I'll do tomorrow, and rather than things, a day here or a day there or an event here. The two, I won't embarrass them, but I had a real hero in this country in my early days as a photographer, and I don't know, 8 years ago, he got in touch to say, would I be interested in doing a print swap? And I was absolutely on the floor. This was just, that was the biggest, most wonderful thing that anybody could have said to me at the time. Wow. And sometime last year, another of my heroes in America just dropped me a little message and just said, I've just spent an hour looking through your website, and I think we're really in tune photographically. I thought, oh God, I love you. And so, those are real high points. But in terms of taking pictures, no, tomorrow. That's the
anticipation of it.
Great.
I love that. I love it. I absolutely love that. Favorite locations, Mike? Obviously, you're in the lakes, and you love Venice. We know you love Venice. Is there anywhere in particular you'd like to go that you haven't been yet, or is the lakes kind of your?
I don't have a bucket list. Most of the places most people want to go do nothing for me. I love the lakes. If I can, come next October and I'm back up in Scotland, I'll go to Elgol, even though everybody goes to Elgol and it's really busy and it's been photographed by everyone in the world. I'll still go there, and I'll probably spend a couple of days there. I'll spend time on Harris, put me on a beach on Harris, and I'm happy. But yeah, put me in a little lonely valley in the lakes when there's nobody else there. You know, I was sitting one day last week, and I was sitting up in Tilthwaite in the lakes, and there was a cuckoo on one side and there was a cuckoo on the other side, and I just thought, this is great. You know, this is just fantastic. And then I looked over the edge of this quarry, and an owl flew past. Shouldn't have been out at that time of day. I thought, this is just great. I must take a picture at some point, but you know,
you just enjoyed the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's, you know, and it goes back to the kind of the healing aspect of it, I guess. You know, I'm just out there making pictures about how I feel about that place, and loving it, just loving it.
Yeah. So for someone, Mike, starting out in photography, do you have anything you've learned along your journey, or any tips or any advice that you think is an important thing to kind of be foundational in what they're doing?
I think, you know, the first one is don't follow anybody's tips. Find out for yourself. But, you know, for landscape photographers, you know, I think the first thing is get out and walk. You know, you look at somebody, you know, someone like Mark Littlejohn, you know, phenomenal photographer, one of the great eyes in the whole photographic world, but he's out all the time, early in the morning, walking and walking and walking. And if you know, and he catches these magical moments of light, and you just have to be out there to do that. You can't do that sitting at home. You can't do that hoping. So walk more, sit more. When you get out there, stop. Sit down, you know, look at the ground, look at the bugs on the ground, look at a leaf on the tree, just spend some time. And so walk more, sit more, look more. And, you know, I think there's and I'd wrap all those up in don't rush. You know, there's a terrible feeling at the moment that people won't kind of do an apprenticeship. They want a quick way of doing something.
Can't rush the process. You know,
yeah. You know, it's if you want mastery, it's 10,000 hours, and there's no way to shortcut that. So walk more, sit more, look more, I would say.
That would look wonderful on a t-shirt, Mike, I reckon, or a tea towel, something like that. Somebody who doesn't like tips. That's very, very well thought out. Full of wisdom as well. Just quickly, who's asking? I saw Philly and Paul asking, do you have a favorite season to shoot?
For me, I think it's very hard not to be excited by being in a snowstorm on a Scottish mountain. You know, that I just love that. You know, that's the bit that really, you know, gets all the senses going. So absolutely, I think I'd have to say, you know, winter in the snow. I love that. I'm really at peace there.
That's not hypothermia setting in, is it? That peace you're starting to feel in the snowstorm?
No, not with the number of jackets I own.
I like
you know,
you. Yeah.
I don't, you know, if I'm cold, I've failed to prepare. You know, if you have to be cold, you know, you put up with it. But if you don't have to be cold, nah. So no, that's, you know, when I said before I like planning, you know, that I'll plan carefully. You
Absolutely.
know, I'll make sure I can spend the day out, and I can spend the day safely. And if I'm, you know, if I've made a mistake, you know, and I haven't got the gloves or whatever it happens to be, then I'm so irritated by that. I won't take pictures. I'll just sit there being annoyed with myself. And grumpy with anybody else who gets close enough. So no, I've really, you know, put me in a snowstorm, I'm happy.
Excellent, I like it. I agree with you. I have 4 jackets. I don't care anymore how I look. I'm happy to have 4, 5, 6 jackets on, as long as I'm warm. Absolutely fine. Mike, you shoot a lot of long exposures when it comes to a lot of the kind of seascapes and things like that. Do you have a favorite filter, a favorite Kase filter? Obviously, you'd be using NDs for that, but is there a particular filter that you use a lot that's one of your go-tos?
I think I think a 3-stop ND is probably the one I use most. I think like a lot of people, I got into all that sort of thing when everyone was using 10 stops. That was the thing to do, and we were all kind of influenced by Michael Kenner and all that sort of stuff. And as the years have gone by, I've used less and less and less neutral density. And I think whereas once I like to smooth things out, I like the movement, but I want a little bit of texture in that as well. So three stop ND is the one I use more than anything else. And although I don't, my use of a polarizer is carefully chosen rather than all the time. I just love that polarizer and the way it just clips in by magic. They tell me it's magnetism, but it's not. It's magic.
That should go on the Kase website, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's not magnetism, it's magic. Mike, you're out obviously all the time doing walking around, enjoying your sunsets and not taking pictures, all the rest of it. Do you have any other hobbies besides photography, besides being outdoors, or is that kind of that keeps you?
That takes most of it. It really does. We're very keen on watching movies in the house. We listen to a lot of music in the house, but I've chosen to live in a place where you don't have access to all of those things that you do in the big cities. What you have access to is the outdoors. So I love to be out, but little side strands is it's one thing to stand in a beautiful valley looking at a lovely view. But I also want to understand that. So I like to know about the geology of the valley, and I like to know about the history of the valley, and I like to know, why there are people there and what the industries were and whatnot. So it's one part is looking, but again, I don't think you can form that same relationship with a place if you don't understand the place. And you can't just truck up and go bang and then get back in your car and go again. I think it's understanding. So wrap all that up together and I'm pretty happy.
Just quickly on the chat, I think a final question here from Zoltan. He says, Mike, do you wait for the light once you've found your chosen subject, and are you a tripod user, or does it depend on what you're shooting?
Tripod user almost all the time. Given that, once you've got yourself somewhere, you can hope for the light, but you can't control the light. The bit you can control is composition. And if I'm using a tripod, then I can make tiny alterations to that composition without, so I can look at it, I can review it, I can make a change. So the tripod for composition more than stability. I wait for the light. Yeah, I mean, I'll sit all day. If I get somewhere that I want to be and it looks promising, one of the great gifts that I've been given is to have the time to sit on a fell side somewhere in Langdale, and if I get there at 7 in the morning, I can be there 7 more hours quite happily. And most times you don't get it, you don't get the light, but
but you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a time to think and a time to sort of to meditate a little bit, and so but definitely there's that whole sort of sense of chasing the light, and for me it's the opposite. I'll sit and I'll wait, and I'll let the light come to me. Yeah. And so if it does, great. If it doesn't, equally good.
Yeah,
beats most of the alternatives I used to do.
Brilliant. Zoltan, thanks for that question. Hopefully that was helpful. Mike, we're very rapidly running out of time. In fact, we've run out of time. So just super quick, 2 questions in one. Looking ahead, do you have any projects coming up, any future plans, obviously post-lockdown and stuff like that? And also, where can people find out more about what you're doing? I know you've got a website, you've got social media pages and stuff.
Yeah, mikeprince.org is the website. There are other Michael Princes in the world making landscape photographs, which is really complicated. So you have to be sure you go for Mike. You not got a middle name you can put in there? No. Once I'd got the domain Mike Prince, that I was having that. There's an American guy who's got mikeprince.com, but I'll forgive him that. So yeah, all on the website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all over there. At the moment, the thing I'm working on is the slate, which we mentioned earlier. And these are places that, in terms of the Lake District National Park, you'd have to say they would be considered to be eyesores. And if somebody wanted to start chipping away at a mountain now, I'd be horrified. But they're part of the fabric of this place. So I'm absolutely completely absorbed with wandering around these old slate quarries and just making. It's not a documentary. I'm not attempting to record them for posterity, but there is beauty there to be found, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's the best and most exciting thing going on at the minute for me. So.
I love it. I love how you love it. That's fantastic, Mike. Listen, that is that. I think we've pretty much run out of time. So before we get kicked off, thank you so much for giving up your evening. And thank you as well to everybody who's joined us, who's asked questions in the chat, who's just come along and supported us. We will be back in 3 weeks' time, not 2 weeks this time. We're back 3 weeks, Sunday the 13th, I think, double checking. Yeah, Sunday the 13th of June, with a duo. For the first time, we're going to have two for one. Don't know if that's the right way of promoting that or not. Paul and Philly, who I think are in the chat, Paul and Philly Benito Brook, are going to be in on Sunday the 13th of June. So do come back and join us for that. If you want to listen again to Mike, you can do that, of course, once we finish in a minute. This will be back available on the Kase UK YouTube page, so stick around or come back and find that. You can share it, you can watch it again, whatever you would like to do there. If you want to find out who's coming up over the rest of the year, then kasefilters.com has got a full listing on what's happening, and you also go back as well and see some of the old videos as well if you're interested in any of those. But I think that's it from us, so thank you from me, from Mike as well, I know, and from everybody else here at Kase Filters UK. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Good night.